Welcome to A Rare Reality, a podcast powered by Jordan's Guardian Angels. I'm Christina Janes, Director of Outreach and Content Development for JGA, and I am joined today by our Executive Director, Carole Bakhos. But Carole, we're going to talk about some things we're taking a different route today. I'm
Yes,
excited
we
about
are.
this. This is going to be great.
Yes, me too. I'm always here as
Exactly.
the JGA person or talking about the research or our efforts, but it's really nice to be chatting as mom, just
Yeah.
going through this like everyone else.
We're asking you to put your mom hat on today. And, you're right. We see you so often in your executive director role, and we're talking about things that have to get out there and all of the information that needs to get to our families. But this time around, as we've been saying, this season, we're dedicated to telling our family stories. So this time around, it's your turn. We get to talk just about one of our favorite topics, which is Yara, who
Oh
uh,
my goodness. Yeah.
that one, she brings so much joy to so many people.
She really does. Yeah. And it's hard to think back sometimes. She's gonna be 11 in a few weeks, and it's hard to think back like where it all started.
It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible
Yep.
that she's 11 years old already. I don't know how that
I
happened.
know.
It's
Yep.
so fast, so fast. But yeah, we want to dive in and hear your story and really get back to, let's go back to the beginning. Which I guess will take us back to the very beginning, when you were pregnant with Yara, leading up to her birth too. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Yara was our first kiddo, so in many ways we had no idea what to expect, and boy did we have no idea what to expect, right? But um pregnancy was uneventful. I was still working full time. I was feeling great, working out. All the scans didn't show anything different or of concern, so we're just so excited that it's a little girl. We absolutely love little girls, and then it was time, right? And labor was over 36 hours long, and Yara had no intention of being born, and
She was
uh
perfectly happy where she was.
yep, she's like, I'm good, thanks guys. And then, she came along, and she didn't cry. We were like all there waiting for that first sound, and it was just so deafening in the room. Like the silence was just something else. Uh And then shortly after, she was just taken away to another hospital, just like that. Didn't get to, like, they're like, Mom, here she is. And like they run away with her. And the hospital we were at didn't have the level of NICU support that she needed. So they took her, right? And they're like, okay, you spend the night, you recover, and you'll go in the morning. I'm like, absolutely not. Like within 30 minutes, I was showered, changed, and at the new hospital. I'm like, I'm not gonna be here chilling, wondering what's happening over there. And that attitude, like, it kind of kicked off, it's like, this is what is needed, this is what we'll do, and she was like the biggest child in the NICU at like almost 9 pounds with a full head of hair. And she was known in the NICU as the big child baby with a full head of hair.
Yeah.
And parents will come and see, we want to see the baby with a full head of hair, And but she needed to be intubated for 3 weeks, so we didn't get to hold her or touch her during that time. So we're just sitting at her side, just waiting. She was the most sick baby there, and we just had to be there. And that changed now, but at the time, the NICU did not allow parents to stay overnight. So every night we had to go through the motion of they'll kind of kick us out like at midnight or whenever, and we would go home, and then at 4 or 5 a.m. we'd be back, right? We had to be there, and then after 3 weeks, she started being able to breathe on her own. But at that point, she was used to all the medication they gave her. So here you go, our less than month-old baby going through
Yeah.
withdrawal and has to like clear her system from all these meds that she needed before she could come home. And then At 6 weeks, I would be there all day. She would be fine. I would go home and they say, "Oh, she had an episode," and we had to give her meds. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, "All right, then I'm not going home. I'm gonna be here until she comes home." And then we were able to convince them to try it. Can we try a night at the hospital where I would stay there, and they rolled in into that little room with all these machines, and I stayed in the room, and it went fine. Like the night went, she just didn't want to be alone. She wanted us to be there, and that next morning we brought her home, and yeah, and we're just so happy to have her there, and yeah.
Once you got her home, how was she doing then?
Again, like we had no idea of what to expect, right? We didn't have a lot of babies in our
No.
day-to-day
Yeah.
life. So she was there. But the one thing that came out of our NICU story is that we were connected to so many specialists right there and then, right? So neurology was doing EEGs already. We had, everyone was right there. And we learned about early intervention through that process. So we asked for a assessment right away. And they came out, she was about 4 months, and they said, she has low muscle tone. She has like newborn reflexes at 4 months. And she basically started therapy right there. Like at 4 months, she was doing physical therapy, feeding therapy, and that morphed into, all the other things after that.
Mm. Yeah, I was going to ask you if there was any outcome from the hospital, but that early intervention, there's something to be said for being able to have it at your fingertips right then, because it makes such a difference.
Yeah, it really does. And it's like we always say it kind of I'm like a sickening silver lining kind of person. I know that's annoying to some people, but the silver lining from that very traumatic birth story is that we had the resources right away.
Right.
I cannot
Yeah.
imagine if we had to wait. And for the longest time, we all thought it was her rough start that was causing these delays, because being intubated, fully intubated and
Sure.
fully sedated for so long, of course, she has a different tone,
Yeah.
but she wasn't catching up, right? So she just wasn't catching up. And that's when doctors started telling us maybe something else was happening. And we were really lucky that, again, we had neurology right there with us. And I remember Dr. Stone from Rochester, New York. Like I can still see his face because he was really that guiding light. And he sent us to genetics. And I'm a little ashamed to say that now, but we didn't know that genetics is not only inherited, right? We're both engineers, highly educated. They sent us to genetics, and I'm like, I'm from one end of the world, my husband is from the other. We meet in the third place of the world. It cannot be genetics, right? We didn't think we had any common genes for it to be genetics. And that's actually where we learned that there are genetic conditions. And again, now after 10 years of living this life, it blows my mind that I had no idea
But how
that
would you? I mean, that was never something that you
no,
knew
when you
about.
think genes, you're like, it's passed down. And you're like,
Yeah.
what do you mean they happen randomly? And they can happen anytime in your lifetime, even as an adult,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we went through the whole diagnosis journey with, MRIs and EGs and blood tests and first genetic round, second genetic testing round, and eventually we did the whole exome sequencing. And they found out she has, the random de novo gene mutation in PPP2R5D. And they called us and they didn't say that. They said, I was at work. I remember being in my office and getting that call, and they told me, we have an answer, we believe, and when can you come in?
And how old was she at
Uh,
this
she was 2.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we went in, and, at that point, the Facebook group didn't exist, right? A lot of our families now, they tell them, you know, here's your diagnosis and here's a Facebook group, and here's a foundation. But
Yeah.
at that point, we didn't have any of that. So we were literally given the one-page publication that was out on the gene, um, and we just, sent off on our way. And I remember, my husband said, and I just like, we went home and we sat on the floor in our living room, and we didn't know like who to turn to, what that meant. We were just sitting there, like we're not crying, we're not talking, we're not
Done.
doing anything. We're just
Yeah.
sitting there. And then we just turned it all into action, and we were like, okay, this is a reality. What do we need to do? And just kicked it off that way.
And there it
Yeah.
began on the floor in the
Yeah.
living room, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. We're like, okay, I mean, this is who she is. We went through the grief cycle, I think, that night, it's like, do, 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 do. And then kind of got in acceptance and whatever it takes, like we all parents do whatever it takes for our children. For her, this is what it takes. So let's do it. And yeah, and here we are almost 11, 8 years, almost 9 years since that diagnosis day. Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of our families are lucky enough now to be able to, and I say lucky enough, but it's hard enough to get a piece of paper that says, here's this Facebook group and here's this foundation. When you have received this diagnosis, you're trying to process it. Not only that, you have a 2-year-old that you've never done this before. What do you do then? Because how did you find everybody? How did that happen? Because then all of a sudden it's like okay, there's got to be more people like us out here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we actually, like, after that initial meeting, we went back to that same doctor, Dr. P, and we said, okay, so what can we do? Like, how can we learn more about the gene? How can we connect to other families? And it just so happened that he had another family that he had diagnosed in Ithaca, New York. But Anna is grown a young adult now, and uh, her mama. And I remember saying, "Here's my number. See if they'll talk to me." And I remember her giving me a call, and she said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "I think I just want to meet you." Like, I didn't feel I needed help. I felt I needed
Mhm.
connection. And we took that 2 hour drive, and we sat in their living room and we watched like this beautiful girl. She was, I think a teenager at that point, Anna, just sitting there, joining the conversation every now and then. And like, this is amazing, like,
Mhm.
is this what our future is gonna look like? And our hearts felt good, because like this loving family and this loving little girl just sharing stuff with us, doing these things that they told us maybe Yara wouldn't do, and it was really nice. And now I'm so thankful that our
Mhm.
families get that opportunities like 300 times over, right? They get to meet all these families and to talk and ask their questions, and it brings my heart joy, the fact that their story is a little different than ours. And then we Dr. P, who diagnosed us, said, well, you could start a social media group. And we're like, oh, great idea. So we go in, and in these like few weeks that we were gonna going through the motion, Nancy, who's another one of our mom, had started the group. And we connected right there and then. And Nancy's one of my closest people to my heart today. And it just started right there, and we started building that community.
And look where we are today.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
I
that's
know.
the crazy. I think that's the thing, is that when you see everybody together, and I know we can't get everybody in a room for family conference, but to see that many people together watching these children run around together and make those connections, and be able to talk to one another and share these stories. I mean, that's because of this group that's been created. I mean,
Yeah,
how does that, I mean, that has to feel so special for you and
yeah,
for Nancy too.
yeah, yeah. It really does. And I remember like Nancy was just so embracing, because I started like, doing a little more with the group. and I'm an engineer. I love my list, like you know, Christina. And the first thing I started doing is collecting data. You know, I'm like, let's collect data.
Yeah.
I didn't know it at the time, but I was creating like my own natural history study survey, basically,
Yeah.
you know, saying, tell us about your kiddo. How old are they? When did they walk? When did they talk? What therapies worked for you? What kind of medication are you on? And we started, you know, and I still have that survey. I closed it now because now we do it the right way, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but but then I started knowing, I'm like, on average, our kiddos seem to walk around four, you know, about 50% are nonverbal. So we started like getting these patterns very early on, you know, before a lot of these came along. And then we were referred to Dr. Mirza, who's now part of our research team, actually in Seattle, and we flew there because she was a specialist with macrocephaly, which is the larger head sizes that Jordan's from now fall under. And this is when we learned that first time that there's a potential for a treatment. It just doesn't exist yet because the gene changes the function of the brain. It doesn't change the structure of the brain. And that news like kept me up for I think 3 months straight.
I mean, right
Like
here
just
you're thinking like this is just how she's going to live her life, and we're good with that, and we're going to support her every
yeah,
way we can. Oh, wait, here's a twist you
yeah,
didn't see coming.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear her voice still today in my ear saying there's a potential for treatment. It just doesn't exist yet today. And we started, you know, then they started helping us doing like the actual data collection and such between her and the
Yeah.
doctor that diagnosed us. And it was around that time that Joe and Cynthia found our group, right? Um, and you know, the rest is history because Joey's like, let's do this together. And you know, and then we kind of just got together and you know, and
And here we are
yeah,
today.
and here we are. I can't even describe the rest of it. And here we are today. Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. And we've heard the story of how, Dr. Chung got on board and those meetings that you've all had about, in creating this team and moving it forward and cut to today where here we are with this incredible research team and heading into clinical trials, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
mind-blowing to think that in such a short amount of time, all this has
Yeah.
happened.
You know, absolutely. I mean, once, you know, the Langs came into the picture, I had my first conversation with Joe, I think in December 2016. We were in India on like family vacation, you know, but I wanted to have this conversation and he was meeting with Dr. Chang. And then like 2 months later, we had the whole research team together in Phoenix, Arizona for our very first research workshop. So thankful that our story is the way it is. You know, a lot of families do not have this kind of journey and they end up alone for a lot longer. But I'm really thankful that we went from like sitting on the floor to being part of this amazing effort and community.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. And there's so much hope. There's so much
Yeah,
hope. And I think that's what's important for our new families to remember too, is that there's so much hope and there's so many
yeah,
things and great things that are happening and coming, right down the line right now. And
yeah,
that's amazing. It's really,
yep.
truly incredible. Along those lines, though, while this is all happening, right, you're meeting people, you're bringing more people into this community, you're conducting your own surveys, happening at home. How are you supporting Yara to move her through? I mean, I know so many people hate the word milestones, but like these inches that we move along the way. Like, how are you
Yeah,
supporting her at home?
yeah. You know, our attitude was from the very beginning that um, one, we didn't expect any different or less from her
Mhm.
just because we got that diagnosis. Like did not tell us, like in our mind, this did not define her future in any way. You know, we're like, okay, she's gonna tell us what that's gonna look like. And two, we always meet her where she is. You know, we don't expect her to meet us where we are, whether that's in communication, you know. So Yara was nonverbal for the first 5 years of her life, and we didn't expect her to just start talking, you know, and like that was not our goal, even though we would have loved that. Our goal was like, what if she doesn't find her voice? How do we communicate with her? How do we get to where she is? So our whole family, including grandparents, are learning sign language. We taught her sign language. Everyone was signing and learning. It was very clear early on that she understood everything. She just couldn't speak. We did communication device to give her, more ways to communicate. We did pictures. We went to training, lots of training, both Sid and I, to learn how to do this, and we went to training to support communication. We went to like all sort, whatever we found ways to learn and be better at doing that, we did that. So that was really our attitude. What does she need? And let's get it for her. And since 4 months of age, Yara has done over 10 hours of therapy a week, and she still does that almost all these years later. And we're very lucky in the sense that she's a willing participant. She's like, okay, I mean, she has that same attitude. If that's what I need to do, I'll
I'll go
do
do.
it. She doesn't fight it, even when it's hard. She might cry and be upset and all that, but she sticks with it. And then we were stuck in that cycle. And I tell families now to maybe do better, because we were stuck in that cycle where the more we gave her, the more she was giving out, and it became an obsession. Like in everything we did, I'll be up till 12, 1, 2, preparing activities, laminating, printing, making stuff in the home, finding things for her to do, finding new therapies. And it became that like real obsession of like, how do we support her as a whole from every single angle? And that took away from a lot of other things, right? And she was our only, so that was a little different. Like if we had other children, maybe we wouldn't have been able to do that. But sleep, mental health, self-care, everything else just took a
Backseat.
backseat, right? And we were just focused on what does she need. And then again, early on, like how do we raise money? How do we start the research? What do we need to do? And it really became a real obsession, and it took years to kind of find that balance and kind of go back to that we can support her, but what else do we need to be doing, and but again, it was that knowledge that like, we meet her and we do these things, and look what she's
We get
doing,
back. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And how do you stop that, and uh and as she got older, that kind of helps too. And I see some of our families doing that right now too with the younger kiddos, because these early years are so important, but it's also important to find that balance of what works for the family, your mental health, your own health,
Mhm.
um, as well.
Yeah. And I think, you understand on a different level than most people do when I say, I gave up my career to make sure that my child was in good shape. You did the same thing. And not everybody understands that and what that feels like, and the fact that you do it because you want to, but because also you have to, and
Yeah,
that was a hard decision for you. I know that it was to make that change, right?
it was one of the hardest decisions actually, because I was in like height of my career, climbing all these corporate ladders, managing like a global team, as the youngest on the team, the only woman on the team. And I was proud of that, and I wanted that for me and for my kids. I wanted them
Sure.
to see, that moms can do this and still be good moms. Um, and and then, I would like schedule her, and I didn't want to miss on anything she needed too, right? So I would schedule her therapies during lunch, run out, be part of that session, run back, do all weekends, do evening. And then when we met with Dr. Mirza, and she told us, that there's potential here for us to find more answers, um, I decided to take, a short sabbatical from work, my thought was, let's do this for like 3 months or so
Hmm.
and get things going, with the group, with research and all that. And that was a really difficult decision, but I felt, okay, it's not forever, we'll do it for a little bit and then we go back. And it was actually around that time that Joe came in the picture and he said, do you want to join the foundation? And that was a really difficult decision too, because I knew once I started that, I couldn't go back. But then also in my mind, I'm like, who else is gonna do it? Like,
Hmm.
I feel like I have the training, the expertise to do this, and the reason to do it, so looking back now, it's not as hard of a decision, like seeing the trajectory, But at the moment, it was like because you had like all these laid out plans, and then um,
You make a hard right turn and have to figure out what that looks
yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was part of this like, like coaching to get,
Hmm.
young professionals into like these big roles in the corner office. And we had all that mapped out and look at the map and then I would look at my life and, you know, but, um, I mean, yeah, maybe I was living my best life, but now I have a reason for it all, so, um, yeah, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't change a
Yeah.
thing for sure.
No, you
Yeah,
wouldn't change anything.
yeah,
I think everything happens for a reason. I mean, I really do in those instances. And um, yeah, I think
yeah,
it's important to remember that, and
yeah,
a lot of people can't, they've never been down that road or understand what that feels like, so I think it's important to talk about because we try so hard to do everything and do everything well. And sometimes you have to just take that right turn. Sometimes things
yeah.
change.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't, families like ours have to be a lot more involved, like even now, right? I mean, Yara is 11. I have to be part of every field trip to support her so she gets to go. I became a Girl Scout troop leader, and I love that I get to, mentor and be part of all these girls' lives. But it's really so she can do it because that's something she wanted to do. And then, the bandwidth
Hmm.
becomes very thin, and day after day, year after year, I love this analogy that we wake up like with 10 balls of energy and like you kind of use them up and then you out, you don't suddenly have like more show up. But like for our families, sometimes you wake up with 8 or with 5 because like, day after day, you're starting to lose some of that. And then it's important to find ways to refuel. And then how do we start with 10 again? And even though we use these up very quickly, how do we at least, take the initiative to start with a larger amount so we have a better chance at getting
Yeah,
stuff done. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's yeah, you try to put your best foot forward every day, so
Yeah.
you can do the most for everyone. Um,
Right.
Speaking of school and field trips and all of those fun things that come along, I went with Jake's class to the zoo yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're
It's like,
still standing. That's good.
yes, still standing, still moving around, great fun, so much fun, but it's busy. I mean, there's
It's
a
a
lot
lot.
happening, but there's a lot of decisions for school. There's IEPs, it's daunting. There's we are lucky to have a really great team, and so are you, for these IEP meetings and everything
Yeah.
else. It's hard. It's hard to find that path and figure out, your path forward and find your team. And how did you find yours, and what did that look like?
Yeah, one of our strategies has been also, it's like, if this is what she wants to do or we want for her, how do we make it happen?
Hmm.
It doesn't start with like, what is she able to do? It's like, what does she want to do and how do we support her so she can do it? And and that's true for everything. Like as a family, we love to travel and I remember, she had a walker, she had a talker, and I remember I would clip her walker around my hips if it just right, big hips uh, have a purpose, and then so I would clip her walker right around her hips. So I was hands free. I was just carrying it on my hips, basically. Would clip her talker on one way, I would carry her on the other, and we would go. And uh, we didn't say like, oh, well, let's leave these. I mean, these are her legs and her voice. She needs them with her at all times. So how do we make it happen? And school was the same way. Where, both Sid and I are big drivers and advocates for inclusion, and we believe that starts in school, because if we're not including our kids in preschools and kinder and all throughout their school life, they're not going to be included in the community. They're not going to know how to do that. Their peers are not going to know how to do that. And I hate for her to be the person that teaches everyone all the time how to deal with differences, but someone has to do it, and and hopefully, if she's doing that work, other families in the future will not have to. Be more natural. But we from preschool, she was in our just community school, and we've moved a couple times, so that we had to move school as a result. But yeah, she's in general education. Her IEP is probably 60 pages long of supports and modifications and everything that she needs. But once she's there, she needs to access curriculum, she needs to access friends, and what do we need to do, the adults in her life, whether it's the parents, the teachers, service providers, what do we need to do to enable that? And we learned very early on that we really need, as parents, to drive that bus. We
Mhm.
had amazing people in our circle all throughout,
Yeah.
and lots of support, but we knew they have a lot of competing priorities, and we have her, right? So we knew that we needed to do a lot of that legwork. We needed to kind of feel empowered and find that knowledge to support her. I mean, even like a few weeks ago, I was at a um, training on um, like special education laws, like the deep laws. What do they say? And really understanding that, because the more we know, the more we can support her and find the right supports for her. And she loves it. She loves being in school. She has an amazing community of friends that have really embraced her. We go into her school every year and we present about how we're all different and how that's okay. We educate others on just, being okay with that, and why Yara's journey might be a little different, but at the same time, how how she's doing what she's doing, and how to kind of receive that. And she does really well. She's able to do um, the work. She knows a lot more than she can do, and that's been always a gap that we're working on, whether physically or emotionally or mental health wise, it holds her back. Um, but she's part of the community, and that's really all we want for her.
Yeah. It's a really beautiful thing, actually. Um, and I know it's hard to pave the way. It's hard to be the first to go through, but it's also so important.
Yeah, and we deal with that a little bit, because not all parents with children with disabilities feel the same way,
Right.
right?
Right.
Many maybe had just horrible experiences with public schools and decided that's not for them. Some feel, that, okay, this is not working. My child is not getting the support, is not getting the knowledge, the education. But we believe if inclusion is done right, it will work. You know, we believe the reason it doesn't work is because it's not done correctly. It's not done in the best interest of everyone, including the other kids.
Mhm.
And we go to conferences every year on inclusive education, best practices, what to do, and we take that back to our school, and we put presentations and say, "Hey, here's what we learned," um, we take it back and we really push for it. And even with summer camps, it's like I remember one time having a conversation with another mom with a sweet girl with a disability, and she's like, "What does Yara do?" I'm like, "We're doing this cooking class, that was offered by the district." And she's like, "Oh," and she signed her up. She got that courage to sign her up and just send her daughter to do that. And I saw her roll in, that morning, and I started crying because like Yara is always the one, right? And we've been told before in like programs, we never see families like yours here. And I'm like, but I don't want families like ours to feel not welcome. This needs to change. This needs to change. And when I saw like just one more family pull in, and I'm like, okay, I'll take that one win for the day.
Yes.
It's not just us that are going to places where they don't see people like us there, um, and is it more work? Absolutely. Is it very stressful? Am I sitting
Sure.
waiting for the phone to ring the whole time? Absolutely. But guess what? After one, two, three times, that phone stops ringing and they know exactly what to do. They know exactly how to support her. And she gets from these classes exactly like everyone else.
I think, I mean, I'm always in awe, Carole, because the approach is something that I hope that so many families can learn from too. Um, I mean, the advocacy work that you and Sid both do is incredible. And also the outlook on all of it is something that I know not every family can do that or can feels like that's what they want to do. But for so many, I feel like it's a guiding light because they're able to say, okay, look at what they're doing. Look at what you're the initiative that you take too. I mean, it's just there's so much good happening from both of you. Um, that it's inspiring in so many ways. I mean, it truly is. And I think that your advocacy work is not just for our community. I mean, it's for so many facets of this where families are going to be able to learn and change in your community, in the broader rare disease community, in special education community. I mean, look at the changes that are being made. And it may not be quick, but it's happening and you're helping that to happen. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a really beautiful thing.
thank you, Christina. And that's really like what I want families to know. I want them to feel empowered
Yes.
because that makes the whole difference for them and others. Like I've called random people out of the blue and had conversations. It's like, hey, when are we doing the next playground in our town? How can it be fully accessible? And they're like, oh, and guess what they're doing right now? They're building fully accessible playgrounds. I didn't have to go fundraise and make a riot and the petition. All it took is a phone call to the right person saying, listen, we're in the community. I can help you get that. We did, I brought the community together. We did round tables. We did all that to show that there's a need and here's what we need.
Mhm.
But sometimes that's all it takes, to make change. And I say, I just go around and like sprinkle some seeds and hopefully they'll grow year after year. Um, and I don't want people to think of advocacy being that like big pushing a boulder
No.
up the mountain. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's also just
Yeah.
having if doing a phone call saying,
You don't have to
"Hey,
take
we're
on
here."
Washington, D.C., I mean, it
Exactly,
doesn't have to be
exactly.
at the federal level. It can literally be in your town. It can be in your own
Yeah.
home,
Yep.
friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. And and through it all, I feel like zero sense of entitlement. Like I don't do these thinking people need to do this. I don't do it with anger. I really work with the belief that people would do better if they knew better. And that's been proven over and over and over. When I walk in with Yara and say, there's one member of your school or your community or that could benefit from this, and here's why. And then suddenly they're like, oh, they've never thought of that, right? It wasn't, they just, and 10 years ago, I don't think I would have. I didn't grow up with individuals with disabilities around me. And what a waste. Like how I was deprived of that opportunity to like learn and grow and do better, and I'm hoping to help others to reach that aha moment without having to have their own child with disability, right? To be like, oh, look at. And I think we're getting better. Like even in the last 10 years, we're getting better at getting this. concept across.
Yeah. Eyes wide open, I think, in a different way. It's,
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that, everybody has a purpose, whatever that purpose may be, and how you find your purpose is on you to discover. But I think that, imagine, I mean, your life would be so different if this had never happened, and there would be so many things that hadn't happened yet, and all of these changes that you've been able to make, they wouldn't be happening either. So, while we didn't necessarily know that we would be taking that right turn back there, I mean, look at the purpose that you found and how
Yeah.
incredible that is. And I hope that, families can feel that too, and know that there's a purpose in so many things. And this may not be theirs, but maybe this is a way to kind of feel like they can jumpstart, and they can, feel your fearlessness, and feel how empowered you have become. Yes, it may have taken 10 years, but it doesn't have to take 10 years either. I mean,
Mhm. Right.
it's there's little things that can be done right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very important. And, and when you're given the diagnosis, it's never presented as you have any kind of control, right? It's presented as like, here's what it is. There's nothing you can do. Good luck, right?
Yeah.
And it's so wrong because there's so much we can do, whether it's at home, whether with our child's development, whether there's a lot we can do, right? So we're dealt this deck of cards. It's a sucky hand. Like it sucks. Do we want it?
Nobody's excited
Absolutely
about
not.
it. You're not like, "This is
Absolutely
great."
not.
Yeah, yeah,
It- It's not where
yeah.
none of us are jumping up and down that we have to do all of it. Do I wish I didn't have? Like I sometimes think how much time I would have if I didn't have to be on all these boards and all these committees, on all these efforts. But I keep telling myself, if you don't do it, that voice is not getting captured. If you don't speak up, no one is saying this. And um, but now I can't trade my cards in because I have this amazing human in my life that I wouldn't trade for the world. And in all the efforts we're doing is really just to make her life a little bit easier so she doesn't have to work so hard for every little thing. And I would be so thankful if I see that happen. But if not, other things still happen, right? So, um, yeah, it's just go out there and make it happen for your child and in whatever capacity that looks like for you.
And look at the difference it's made for Mazen too.
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a
absolutely.
beautiful thing? I mean, I know that, in our house, that's just this is the way life is, and this is normal. And Jake's younger brother has seen that, and that's normal for him,
Yeah,
um but look, the benefit for so many is there.
absolutely. And as a younger brother, like a lot of the um tools and strategies we've used with Yara, we use with him too,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
feel like it enabled us to support him better. But
Mhm.
also, I asked him the other day, and I probably should ask him again because it's been like a little bit now. I said, Mazen, what do you think Jordan syndrome is? I was curious because Yara is very aware of her diagnosis, and we can talk about that a little bit if you'd like. But she self-advocates, she knows about it. She's like, this is the Jordan syndrome girl. She has no problem with it, being different. She understands the implications. And I was curious what he thought of it. And he said, that's Yara's superpower.
Oh.
That was his response. And it's just like, I'm like, whoa. Like the messaging was subtle messaging that we were sending for him to feel this is not a limitation. This she's not broken. That's her superpower. And at 4 years old. And we're like, thank you, baby. You can just
These
go do
family
whatever you
stories,
want
man,
now.
every week.
Yeah.
Holy man.
But
Ah,
I'm trying to keep it together here. But
I know.
um
I'm not,
yeah,
clearly. So
but that's how he viewed her. Her
beautiful.
big sister with superpowers.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And it's so innocent and so pure, and just so it's wonderful.
Yeah.
They-
And can we learn from that? Right.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, please, can we? Can we please?
Yeah.
We need more of that in this world, I think. Um, let's talk about Yara because for those families who have not met Yara yet, you are in for a treat. She is so
Isn't
special.
that right?
She is so special. I mean, she will take you by the hand, and that's just you're going. Where are you going? Where are we going, Yara?
Yeah.
But
Let's do it. Yeah.
she's like
Yeah.
I mean, she's a ray of sunshine. She's so special.
Nathan was having a little bit of a hard time at summer camp last summer. And so we're talking to him about, he's like, I don't know anyone, and, I'm getting bored. And so we're talking about strategies. I'm like, Yara, what do you do when you go to somewhere where you don't know anyone? She's like, I woke up and say, hi, I'm Yara. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what you do,
Right?
uh, and, she's so loving, so kind. One of her friends in fourth grade was like, Yara is so sweet that even the boys like her. It's like they're like, and um, when she's happy, and when she's upset, right? We have a lot of highs, a lot of lows. Um, but she doesn't, she never give up, and imagine like living life where sitting is a chore, right? You're sitting and you're tired because your muscle tone doesn't allow it, or going out in the wind and like a little breeze is like stabbing you in your eyes because you have sensory issues, or everyone is running and you just can't keep up because you just don't have that kind of physical strength. Yeah, and but yeah, you start every day with a smile. You start every day with that big personality, saying, I'm different and it's okay. And we struggled with that a little bit because we're like, we can't control what others do. We can educate, we can be that voice, but at the end of the day, bullying happens, mean comments happen. How do we prep her? How do we make her ready to be like, whatever,
Yeah, that's a you
And
problem.
that's
Right?
exactly what she is, right? It's like, this is me, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And I think her personality, a lot of it is just who she is. I don't think it has anything to do with her syndrome. I think it augments it, so like her happiness becomes really happy, but I think that's just who she is, her kindness,
Yeah.
her heart, and it's just who she is, and we're really thankful to have the opportunity to be her parents, even though sometimes I'm like ready to bang my head or just like need a minute, and that's all okay. I mean, I feel the same way with my little dude sometimes too. And it's not easy, it's a lot of work, but parenting is just hard, right? And she's amazing. She really is, and we're so proud of her. And we tell her that every day. Now she's getting at an age where she's like, "Oh, stop it," but we do tell her every day that we're proud of her and she's enough.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm going to ask you the same thing I've asked other families too. What's your hope for Yara and for other children in our community?
My hope is like for them to be able to reach their potential and have the right community and support to help them do that, whatever that looks like. I wouldn't change her for the world, and that's why I'm changing the world for her. Um, and I want the world to be ready for her and friends like her that play such an important role in this world. And it's not about, you know, it's a lot of times it's about us, and whether we're able-bodied or quote unquote not neurodivergent, or that how we're acting and how we're doing that is shaping their experience, and really not the other way around. And um so I just hope, I don't know if we'll see that in our lifetime, but I hope, down the road that we won't need to have these conversations, and that we will all be ready and equipped to accept each other no matter what.
Well, e- wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for I'm hoping, I really, really hope that our families feel empowered by all of this and ready to, to really see you as a mom who has gone to the ends of the earth to make sure that her child has everything that she needs. Um, she's really lucky to have you and Sid. And I think you guys should be proud of yourselves for all the work that's been done and continues to be done every day. So
Yeah. Thank you, Christina. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's important. Our attitude really shapes our children. And I'll just leave you with this one story that it's like, um, there are two ways to do this, right? Like if someone is walking down the road and they're wearing their coat, you could either blow the wind and, hope, you know, make them take off their coat, or you can shine bright and make them feel hot and want to take off their coat. And really look at how do you want to approach this and what message you want to send, and that's going to impact your children. And don't put them in a box, right? The more you expect from them, the more you push them, the more you believe in them, they're going to pick up on that. And that looks different for different people. I realize that, but they'll be better off for it for sure.
absolutely. Carole, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, so much. I'm going to leave it at that because it was really special. Thanks for taking the time and sharing your story. Families are going to love it. Um, and I know that they're going to be so excited to meet Yara in July. So can't wait
Yes.
to see all the hugs that she gives out. It's going to be
Oh
great.
yeah, absolutely. Get ready, everyone.
Yeah. Carole, thank you. And for those of you who have not checked out our podcast, you can find it anywhere the podcasts are where they're streamed. Also on our website, jordansguardianangels.org. You can check out the video there, and it's on YouTube also for all of the translation services. So give it a listen. These family stories are really special. This has been a really fun deep dive into everybody's stories.
I've been enjoying listening to everyone's stories, and you know, thank you for the opportunity to tell mine. I don't get to talk as a mom very often, so that was special for me as well.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Carole, thank you. And thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you soon.